Hi, this is Megan Jax, and I am here with the Paisley Border Punch from Creative Memories. It is part of the 2024 Secret Box number 3. It came with the Retro Vibes collection. And I want to show you today how to punch in the round with the Paisley Border Punch. It works really well. You'll need the jumbo circle, the red blade, some cardstock. I would practice on some scrap paper first to get an idea of how it works so you get a feel for the punch and the spacing. I also have here, I've got a pencil. If you're using a paper, you might be able to do it with just a pencil. I also have one of the metallic journaling, the silver metallic journaling pen because I've got the dark hot fudge cardstock so you can see my markings. I've got the silver pen that will work well. Otherwise, you wouldn't have to use something like this. I'm only doing that for the video. You might want to have a thin tip Sharpie with you to mark the back side of your Paisley punch. You could also use a pencil. You can use another. I've used any of the journaling pens, like especially like the black journaling pen that wipes away afterwards. But if you want to have that permanently marked in the center, you can use use a thin tip Sharpie. But you also will want to have some scissors available. There will be a little bit of fussy cutting at the end. It's not a lot. You just have a little bit of some wedges to cut out, but it's real easy to do. And I do have a ruler available. So when we mark things out, I want to be able to kind of just make sure my guide lines stay nice and straight so that everything looks good. So I've got some hot fudge cardstock here. And the reason I'm using hot fudge is because it goes so well with this Retro Vibes collection. I am working towards doing some sort of a layout using this Paisley paper out of the Retro Vibes collection with the Paisley punch in the round. I don't know what the final layout is going to look like, but we're today for this video really just focused on punching in the round. And then you can use what you punch kind of to your heart's content with however it works best for your layout. So to get started, obviously I've got my Paisley punch here. Pretty much for this technique, it is a pretty standard technique of all the measurements. You've punched in around with other border punches where we use the red blade, outside track, 30 degree marks. It's the same. Everything's the exact same. This is just going to show you how it works with this specific punch. But for the most part, this technique carries over into the Paisley punch just like it works on some of the other punches, the border punches. Okay, so I've got my paper here. I'm going to put it on my 13 by 13 mat, and I am going to center my jumbo circle as best as I can. Now, if you've watched other videos that I have about using the jumbo circle when punching in the round, you know that I've marked my my jumbo circle to have all of those measurements. I have a video for it. I've got a handout for it. If you're going to punch in the round with the jumbo circle, you're going to want to mark your measurements. So if you have a jumbo circle and you have not marked your measurements, I would pause this video, go check out the other videos first, and then come back to this before you attempt to do it yourself. It's so much easier if you have those marks already done on your jumbo pattern. So I'm going to line up my measurements, my midpoints here at the 6-inch mark, all 4 sides of my cutting mat. I'm going to line those up at 6 inches. One of the things you want to do here when you trim, you want to make sure your pattern stays where you have it. You don't want the pattern to move. For this sample, I'm going to be using my jumbo circle to help me do my measurements. So it's more important that I stay fixed once I cut my circle than it is if everything shifts on the background. So just make sure your jumbo circle pattern stays where it is after you've cut your circle. All right, red blade, outside track. Go ahead and give everything a whirl. And I'm just making sure everything stays where I want it to be. I'm going to go ahead and lift that away. Now this is where you're going to use your pencil. You're going to use something that you can see your measurements with. So I've got this dark cardstock. So for the demonstration purposes, I'm going to go ahead and mark it with my a metallic journal pen. That'll stand out nicely on the cardstock. The other thing to note here is if you are using not a cardstock or you're using a dual-sided cardstock, you want to work from the back side. This should be the back of your paper. All right. So here with this, I am going to go ahead and I'm really just going to put dots in place right now. I really just want to mark every 30 degrees because what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back with my ruler and put those longer straight lines in place. So you can mark to the outside or the inside of your circle. I'm going to mark to the inside only because I can see those easier on video. This dark hot fudge is a little bit challenging to see. I'm working my way around. Every 30 degrees, that's what we want to mark, every 30 degrees. That is basically a clock face. So you can see here, noon, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And I'm going to keep going so forth all the way around. Here's 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, and 11. So I've got all of my dots done. Now here's where I'm going to come in with my ruler. I'm going to go and I'm going to come here to the outside edge. In my opinion, you could come in and I could mark all the way. Mark a couple inches in if you want. And you just work your way around. This is the back side. The front side of this is where it's going to be showing on my layout. So all these silver marks will not show. Take your time when you're doing your measurements and your marking, because this is what's going to give you that consistent punching all the way around. You want to make sure you take your time to line things up. Don't rush through it. We'll go ahead and mark this last one, and then I'll have all 12 spaces marked out. All right, so there we go. You can see all 12 spots that are marked. Now, when we look at our Paisley punch, the thing to do here is to look on the back, and you can see I've already marked the middle. The middle pretty much runs down the middle of the punch. It's going to come pretty much right through that center, it's almost like a cat eye. You can kind of see there. It's like an almond shape right in the middle. That is the middle of the punch. So I'm actually, because I've already practiced this once, I'm going to come in and I'm going to draw a second line on the other side. It's just over 1¼ inch from the outside edge. The inside bit here that cuts, you can see this opening, the window that shows you the design, is just over 2½ inches. It's like 2 and 17/32. I mean, it's really just slightly over 2½ inches. So your mark is going to be just slightly past 1¼ inch. And that's about where I am top to bottom. And then I'm going to cut right down the middle. I'm just going to make these a little bit bolder so I can see them. And there you can see I've got the center marked. In the middle here, I will also be lining that up using that center cat eye to line up my punch. Now it's time to start punching. If you've watched any of my other technique videos showing how to punch in the round, I always work from the back side. I flip the punch over and I'm going to work here from the back side. So I'm going to slide this in and I'm going to line up my marks. It's going to go right down the middle. See where that silver line is? Right down the middle of the cat eye, down here and up here. And I'm going to punch. This one you will want to flip over when you punch it. And the reason is there's like 5 million little pieces that come out. And then you just continue to work your way around. One of the things you will want to check as you're punching, make sure your Paisley is not over the paper here. You should, if you marked everything correctly, you should not have, it should fit on there just right, just fine. And I'm just going to keep working around. But here, as you can see how we have that little wedge there? But that's not much at all to trim out. That wedge may vary in size as you punch. That is kind of one of those things that, your markings, we're working with not always 100% precision tool. There you can see I've got a little bit bigger wedge. And you're just going to keep going all the way around 12 punches. This is such a pretty punch. And I'm excited for those of you who got it. I know it's going to be really versatile for people. It's going to work with, like, if you have the wide open places, if you have any of those kind of like country and ranch things, and you think of like bandanas that have the Paisley pattern in them, it fits in with this groovy vibe. It fits in with, maybe anything that needs to have a little bit of touch of delicacy to it. So definitely a really versatile punch. Couple more here. It does take a little bit of time to get all 12 punches made. Last one, and this is always the test, right? To see whether or not that final piece is gonna work, and it is. I have space in here. All right, what do you do though if you don't? Okay, what if you get to this last piece and you don't have, it doesn't work. You know you're gonna be punching too far over here. Maybe your measurements weren't quite precise or whatever it may be, and you're like, oh, I'm coming clear over to this side. You're like, it's not gonna work. I'm gonna double punch. Okay, so what I want you to do, if you are not able to get your punch to fit in this big wedge that's left, I want you to release. I want you to come in with your scissors and release this piece before making that final punch. That way, you'll only have a little bit of area where the pattern doesn't match up, and you just put an embellishment over it, or a sticker, or your photo. It's easier to hide a small little area where your segment doesn't match up versus a big area where you've double punched. But mine's gonna work. So it is possible to get it to work. If it doesn't work for you the first time with your scratch paper, try it again. There's my middle piece, and you can see, look at how much mess this makes. You look at all these tiny little pieces. That's why you definitely want to make sure you're punching it upside down. I'm going to go ahead and get this all into my waste bin. Give it a couple of taps to get out all those extra pieces. I've got some residual repo adhesive on my layout, but here you go. There you can see Paisley punch in the round, but I have wedges. The wedges do need to be cleaned up. So here's where you get to just figure out how do you want these pieces to be. And you just have to experiment, kind of play around with what you think is going to work best for your punch. Do you want it to be more like a little bit of a V cut? Do you want it to be just a scoop? You have to figure out what's going to work best. Some of it comes down to, in my opinion, what's easy to cut. I'm just doing a basic scoop cut. You could do something a little bit more fancy if you wanted to. Got a little bit on the outside and the inside to cut. But it is definitely not too bad to do that fussy cutting. You don't have to think too hard. It's not hard to just get those pieces cut out. Couple more here. Like I said, some will be a little bit bigger than the others. If you have consistent ones that are all the same size, congratulate yourselves. That means you did an excellent job measuring and punching to get everything nice and even. All right, last one. Here we go. So there we go. There is Paisley Punch in the round. It does have a very much, I think, a rope effect to it. It's almost like, like chain pieces, imagine like that. So it's got the kind of the rope effect to it a little bit. You have to kind of look a little bit closer to see the Paisley. It's probably hard on camera, I think, to see that. But so what do you do after this? Well, now, like I said, you've got your in the round piece, and this is where you start to play with however you want it to be. So just for a sample of what my general thought was, we have this lovely medium craft paper that came with the Retro Vibes collection. Of course, it looks fantastic with that hot fudge. Also think brown shimmer paper. If you want a little bit of sparkle in your layout, brown shimmer paper is a great way to do it. And then we can come in here with just a little bit, if you want to come in, covering up half of it, we could come in the middle with the, putting this circle piece here in the middle if we wanted to. The other thing you can do is you can, if you really wanted to get crazy, is you could punch some of this with maybe come in with the pumpkin color. The pumpkin picks up on the orange here. You could come in with the pumpkin and you fill in these pieces if you wanted them to be a little bit. I like the idea of just coming in here simple. For my personal taste, I don't want to accent too much orange. I'm thinking just maybe a little bit of orange that comes in here. And maybe I would do the mattes in here, but I want to pull in more of the golden tones and more of the browns, just to kind of stay away too much of the orange, just because my personal taste of that. So if I were to come in here, I would probably I've done this overall setup before where you just kind of use a partial bit of the circle here, coming in with maybe a 3-inch strip on the side. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and just cut that. This is my first time cutting any of this paper. It's always a little bit nerve-wracking to cut. You could use a decorative trimmer or decorative blade if you wanted to. You could use the decorative trimmer as well if you wanted a little bit of a some excitement to the wave, but I don't really need that. I'm going to come in here with that, go ahead and cut there. And then one of the things that might look really nice here, and I have to see, I didn't really put too much thought, I'm really going on the fly here, to maybe go ahead and use, I don't know what it would look like, is to come in with mirrored scallops. All right, if I want a little bit of separation between, so I could come in like such, and maybe I want a little bit of separation here. All right, I want to have a little bit to delineate between. I could come in with just some brown. I could come in with that pumpkin color in here. Like I said before, I could come in just a little, like a bit there. That looks really nice. And then pull in that pumpkin as my matte. So you're accentuating, but it's not overly obvious. One of the things I want to highlight in here is look how we see these scallops around the outside of our paisley. Well, that's going to look really nice with the scallops here. So let's go ahead. I'm going to grab another sheet of hot fudge. Another sheet of hot fudge, and I am going to use the order maker system with the mirrored scallops, and we'll go ahead and punch a section of this. You could use double rickrack, would be a fun one to use as well. So I am just really just kind of playing around with this right now. I hadn't really thought too much beyond just doing, here we go, something like that comes in there, really nice. Now, one of the things I want to do, I do like coming in here with a little bit, we wanted to bring out that orange, or you know what might look really pretty is some canary. And the question is so I have a scrap of yellow of canary. I don't see a scrap. So I'm going to grab a sheet of canary. Oh, that's going to look really pretty. I'm going to have a sheet of canary, a little piece of canary in there. And really, if you come in and you measure, I can't remember what the measurement is, but you can trim a piece that is, let's see here. Oh, just about 5/8 inch. Nope, I'm sorry. It's about 9/16 wide. We all love the 16th, so not quite 5/8 inch wide. And that should let me just fill in those scallops without going outside of the scallops. So give a little punch of color. And oh, there it is, looking for my, I'm just gonna put this over it so that canary is gonna show through. Oh, that looks lovely, lovely. Just popping that, instead of popping out the orange, the pumpkin color, I'm coming in with the lighter yellow, which is the canary. Now, we can leave it like this here, but the other thing we could do is we do have kind of a fun pattern on the back. We could come in with a nice, just kind of, I don't know, just playing around with a little bit, just adding another element. If I trim this just shy of 1/4 of an inch, just shy of 1/4 inch, I am gonna get a little strip that'll go right down the middle of that mirrored scallop. So I'm gonna cut, I'm cutting this just shy of 1/4 inch. We're gonna try this. I don't know if this is gonna be the right piece. We'll see. I don't know if I'm gonna like this piece. Maybe I'll cut another one. I don't think I like that, the way that pattern hit on that one. And I could pick another paper. I just haven't cut any of the other papers yet, and so I didn't want to maybe pick one. I'm sticking with one of the designer pieces I've already cut. I don't know if I'm gonna like this particular one down the middle, but it does give you just a little bit more in there, right? A little bit more detail. I could flip it over and see. I mean, that's nice too. I mean, that's not shabby. I mean, I like it. I do like it. It just pulls out more of the same pattern. I may actually like that a little bit better than the other one. I probably could also, if I needed to, if I didn't want this to be 3 inches, it intrudes quite a bit into the layout. You can dial that back to maybe 2.5. But 3 inches will allow you to come in here. You do have some space for some 4x6 photos. In here, I would either come in with the canary, you could come in with the hot fudge, you could come in with the pumpkin. If you really liked the golden color, you could come in with either maybe goldenrod or the fruit cocktail with the dark yellow side of the dual tone cardstock that we had recently last month. So all in all, here is the general layout. We have stickers and so forth that go with this collection that you can finish out this layout. Lots of ways that you can play with this, but I wanted to show you how to do this in the round so that you know that it does work with the Paisley punch. The other option would be to come in here too. I already have another Paisley punch, has a little bit of cat hair on there, but if you really, really wanted to bring it more detail in here, you could come in there. On this the busier paper of the Paisley pattern is that it definitely has a lot more going on. You're going to want to use something like a high contrast that a hot fudge is going to work well there. So all in all, very excited about this layout. Excited about the collection. I know people are like, well, what do I do with this collection? I have cat pictures that are going to go with this. I'm going to go back through some random photos that I have of my kids, like the one-off little silly expressions they make, maybe you know, them just with their friends, things where you just have 1 or 2 photos. It's not really telling a whole lot of a story, but it's just telling of a little moment. This can be a very general collection. Don't feel that you've been boxed into a certain decade or two of history, but look more into the colors, look more into the overall feeling of things. This will probably end up something with my cat. I've got lots of other papers in here that I know are going to work out for just other collections or other things. So looking forward to seeing what everybody creates and how you use that Paisley punch on your layouts. Thanks so much for watching.